is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Gaelic Gridiron podcast. Week 3 of the NFL is just behind us. We are coming to a day earlier than usual, recording here on Monday evening after a fantastic and wacky weekend of NFL games. I am off to London tomorrow for work, hence the earlier podcast. So delighted to be here, as usual, with Kevin Kelly and Stephen Kearns at Twisted Idiot on the X, if you're so inclined. Kev has a big grin on his face because the Vikings had a fantastic game against the Texans yesterday. Lads, how are we feeling? We both our teams won yesterday, so I hope we're doing well.
Yeah,
no reason. Take this off.
No reason for any of us to be unhappy this week at all.
Definitely not. No, a win's a win. Doesn't matter. Top of the north. Let's go.
Kev, you've been up and down the country in the past few days at work, where you've had a chance to keep the kicking up, which is great.
It's cool just ticking off a couple of different counties though. Actually, like just getting into like a different pitch on a different county. It's actually pretty cool. Like it's a nice way of seeing the country a little bit.
I'm surprised you made it out of Dundalk alive, to be honest with you. I was fearing for your safety. A nice Kildare boy like yourself up in the mean streets of... Where did you do your kick in Dundalk out of curiosity?
Somewhere near the
DQRT.
Yeah, somewhere really close to the university. I couldn't tell you where it was now.
Well, here we are. Week 3 has come and gone. Some blowouts, some big performances. I don't even know where to start. And of course, we'll get to the Vikings and the Steelers in a few minutes. But I think the standout... Sorry?
Panthers, let's go.
Panthers, absolutely, yeah. I think that's where we have to start, is the Panthers. I mean, with Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle at the helm, they looked like a new team yesterday against the Raiders. They look strong, they look confident. And it seems like Dave Canales' risk has paid off, Twist, with benching of Bryce Young and elevating... I didn't even know Andy Dalton was still in the league, to be honest with you, until we saw that last week, and he looked good, didn't he?
He did. It's wild to think that, especially as Steelers fans, both Joe Flacco and Andy Dalton are still in the league as backups. The big thing is the Panthers did come out and say that benching Bryce Young was more of a timeout for him, that they won't write off him starting again later down the year. Now, that's probably just a PR thing because you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot from taking a number 1 overall draft pick and giving everything to the Bears for a quarterback who's just been benched after, 18 games? But Andy Dalton came out and he showed Carolina Panthers fans that their offense isn't broken. Their offense works. You know, he went out there, he had a perfect passer rating in his first series. 5 for 5 touchdown to Deontay Johnson, of all people.
Who's suddenly become his number 1 target, apparently. So it mightn't only be Andy Dalton who's getting a career revival in Carolina. We might see our erstwhile leading receiver getting a bit of a new career there as well.
Well, I mean, Dalton does have the advantage of he spent his entire career facing AFC North defenses. So the Raiders defense was nothing for him to, sweat about. He picked them apart and he showed the Panthers that there is life, but also showed them that, if I stay under center, you're not getting the number 1 pick this year.
I think, Kevin, that was definitely the biggest surprise of the weekend, was that result. I mean, I remember seeing yesterday, watching the Steelers, obviously, and then the Carolina game was popping up in red zone, and I couldn't believe it. The Panthers were actually doing well, and Dalton especially. I mean, he 3 total touchdowns, over 300 yards passing. I mean, what? And only a few weeks ago, we were kind of laughing at the Panthers in the basement of the NFC South, and now they're fantastic, it seems.
I wouldn't go that far. They've had one game. I think you've seen it last year with the Vikings when they brought in Josh Dobbs. Like we had that good game, and then there was like another game where he looked a little shaky. He started to kind of come apart a little bit, and then by game 3, he couldn't work his way out of a paper bag. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So is it a case of it's perhaps a little bit of the so-called backup effect we're seeing with Dalton, that he has all this momentum behind him coming in, and that how long is it going to last?
I don't think it's necessarily all of that. I think there's parts of it where he obviously is quite talented. He's a NFL QB, like backup QB for a reason. So he obviously has like some really good strengths, and he's starting to show it now that he's has an opportunity. And maybe, like you said, if this is just some like try or like kind of timeout for Bryce Young, like this could be the worst thing for his career ever to happen. Is for Andy Dalton to go on a big run here and to get them 3, 4, 5, 6 wins, you know?
I personally think, and I'd be interested to get your guys' thoughts here, that Bryce Young is not going to get his job back. Similarly to what we're seeing develop in Pittsburgh now with Justin Fields, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on. If Andy Dalton has a similar trajectory over the next couple of games, and he does, I mean, you could visibly see the uplift in their attitude and their body language, and he was out there and enjoying himself, and the players were enjoying themselves, and the players responded to him. I don't think there's any way back for Bryce Young if Andy Dalton continues to play this well.
Yeah, if Dalton takes control of this offense the way he did on Sunday and keeps that momentum going, especially going into face the Bengals, his old team, next week. If he goes in and he puts on another performance and he pulls out a big win against Burrow and the Bengals.
A statement win.
Yeah, I don't think Bryce will see the field again, barring an absolute meltdown or injury. Now, that doesn't mean that Bryce is not going to be a Panther. I think he will remain a Panther because purely the front offices want to look like that they gave up the farm to the Bears and trade him away.
Yeah, you got at some point though, you got to just be like, all right, we did the wrong thing. Like, we made a mistake. You just move on. You just wash your hands of it and you move on. You say, all right, we're cutting ties with you. Like, we need to take the organization in a different way. At some point, you have to just call a spade, and you say, I made a mistake. Like, they made a mistake with that trade and all, like, that whole year of draft picks. Like, they just made a mistake. Like,
unfortunately, the best time for them to rectify that mistake is, and Jimmy alluded to it before we start recording, is trade to a team whose quarterback is injured. So you're basically hoping for a team desperate enough whose starter is injured, the backups aren't looking great, give a shot to Bryce in a new system. And Jimmy, you mentioned the possibility the Dolphins might look into that.
But the question is now does Bryce Young get traded to the Dolphins before the trade deadline in November?
I don't know. I don't see it happening. I kind of played around with the idea of it last night, kind of laughing about it. But the more I thought about it, I was just like, I don't see him fitting into Mike McDaniel's offense at all. I just don't see it. So I'm like, I don't know if he's even somebody he'd want to go after. I'm thinking more like, feel like Russell Wilson would be better. I'm like, he would be a better fit, I think, in that offense in Miami. So, I don't know if anyone's going to be that desperate to go to Bryce Young as their next option.
Well, look at it this way. If Bryce Young magically ended up with the Dolphins because Tua is not back for the rest of the season and he stinks the joint out again with the talent that's on that Miami offense, that's it. He's done. Like, that is a situation of insurmountable pressure to put him into. I mean, if you can't get a ball to Tyreek Hill, you don't belong in the NFL. It's like, throwing the ball downfield. Jets is going to get it for the Vikings, Hill's going to get it. All the top receivers are going to get the ball. If Bryce Young can't do that with a top receiver like Hill, if he ended up Miami, that's him done. But
the Dolphins have to do something because their current situation at quarterback is not good. I mean, we saw Skylar Thompson had an absolute nightmare and then eventually got knocked out of the game. I forget who they were playing, but it was not pretty at all. And then Tim Boyle came in, who, I mean, if you didn't know Andy Dalton was still in the league, I had no idea Tim Boyle was still knocking around.
At one stage, the Dolphins were 4th and 39. That's how bad they were without Tua. 4th and 39. I haven't seen a 4th and 39 since like the early 2000s Cleveland Browns.
I mean, just talk about an absolute meltdown. And like you say, Twist, to have all those weapons in your offense, I mean, outside of the 49ers, I think the Dolphins are maybe one of the most stacked offenses in the league. With Waddle and Hill and Achane and Raheem Mostert. So Mike McDaniel was visibly not happy. And can you blame him really when
No.
his season has just disappeared with Tua's kind of concussion?
But like, I feel like for a team like that, right, that it's been obvious that he's struggled with concussions, or that concussions have impacted him more than it has other players. How do they not have an insurance card of like a really good backup? Like,
instead of Tim Boyle, it was on their practice squad until like during the week.
That's my point. I'm just like, surely you go after the top end of like the second string quarterbacks in the league.
Who is that right now, Kev? Though outside of
Kev alluded to Russell Wilson, like
I feel like.
I mean, look at it this way: they were facing the Seahawks. Imagine Russell Wilson going out for Miami and beating the Seahawks.
Yeah,
even like Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know how you guys rate him at this point, but he's still a backup. Like,
he's not great.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Russell Wilson situation, because as I say, like the way, I mean, Justin Fields, you can see him getting better and better and better each game and having more confidence and stepping into his throws, and actually, instead of his first option, which is to scramble and run like hell, he's now sticking in the pocket, and we're seeing it pay off. And I can see Russell Wilson being thrilled to sit on the bench all year, as eventually he will get back to, when he is healthy, he will get back to at least the backup quarterback instead of the emergency quarterback twist. But like, what are the Steelers going to do there?
Well, I've been saying it all season, that Russell Wilson is a 1-year rental. He's not going to be, unless he wins a Super Bowl for the Steelers, he's not going to get re-signed. He's too expensive. After the season, Justin Fields will probably get a 3-year, maybe 4-year max deal, while the Steelers hang on for a decent quarterback coming into the draft class.
Please God.
To replace him. But, like, Russell Wilson, he's obviously not going to be happy sitting on the sideline as even an emergency quarterback or second quarterback, because the way he's looking at it is, this is his, if you will, free year. He's being paid by the Broncos to play elsewhere. It's next to nothing to have him on your team, vet minimum. And if he doesn't go out there and show that he can still play, he can still sling it, he can still do what Wilson does, when the season comes around, he's going to be asking for that Super Bowl win champion money. And no team's really going to bite too hard on that, because they have a year of him standing on the sidelines in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Kev? Does Russell Wilson get back in eventually, or is it going to take something like a monumental disaster on Fields' behalf? I mean, he had one interception yesterday, which I wouldn't even say is Fields' fault, really. It was a bit of a fluke twist, as you say. I mean, I'm raging that Bud Dupree got it personally. That really annoyed me. And like, see him pop up in the Chargers, I was kind of like, that's so random. I mean, but it's good to see him. Like, I mean, I obviously it didn't work out in Pittsburgh for Bud Dupree, and then he went to Tennessee for a while and he bounced around a little bit. So glad to see him doing well. But Kev, Russell Wilson, and we'll finish this topik, because we could talk all night about Russell Wilson and what's going to happen. Like, does he get his job back, or does he go elsewhere before November?
I think it comes down to this, right? If Justin Fields has a mediocre game, right, I still think the coaches and the organization stand behind him, because he's brought you to a 3-1 start, for example, just to go on that expectation. Even if he has a mediocre game, you still go with him into the 5th game, and then like he's good again. Like, unless fans get on his back and get on the organization's back, like, oh, we need a change, I don't see much of a change coming until week 8, week 9, when there's actual results or actual evidence to say he's not our guy. Because right now, he's your guy, and he looks good doing it.
He does. It's interesting to see. I mean, this week we saw some really good performances out of teams that have been struggling to date. We also saw, I mean, Bo Nix played very well against the Buccaneers. There was another surprising result to me. I mean, you talk about the Panthers effectively blowing out the Raiders. The Broncos did the exact same thing to the Buccaneers, and Baker Mayfield was average. I mean, after playing like a superhuman for the past 2 weeks, it was kind of Bo Nix who got in the spotlight, Kev. I mean, he got his first NFL touchdown, albeit a rushing touchdown. He didn't make any mistakes. And it looks like the Broncos might have made the right decision after all and sticking with him.
Well, look, I mean, again, I think I always look at the coach behind, especially a rookie quarterback like that, right? So you have Sean Payton there. Like, as a head coach, like, I don't think there's many other coaches you'd want around a rookie quarterback. I think he just has the experience, and he's done it with Breeze. He's just been the ultimate coach, I think, and I think that combination right now is working, and it's starting to work. Obviously, the first 2 weeks didn't look fantastic. There was definitely glimpses, but now we're getting into it, and we're starting to see the season unfold as it is.
Yeah.
It's starting to take shape, and people are starting to make not assumptions about teams, but pretty good guesstimates. Like, you look at Dallas, they're absolutely horrendous right now.
Yeah, and they still almost came back and bet the Ravens yesterday.
2 teams that didn't look fantastic, but yeah, Bo Nix, I think, just he's landed in a good spot. He's landed with a good coach, good organization. I think that it's going to be only good things for them right now.
Just want to touch briefly as well. Now, I didn't get to watch this game, but I only read about it. But Malik Willis for the Packers in the backup role defeated this old team in the Titans. The Titans definitely have a quandary there in Will Levis and what they're going to do with him. Didn't have the best game twist, but Malik Willis, I mean, there's another, like, we're talking about redemption arcs, and we've seen several redemption arcs this season. Malik Willis is definitely another one of those players who fits into that kind of storyline. Is he obviously was drafted by Tennessee, didn't really succeed there, and now he's backing up Jordan Love, and had the opportunity yesterday to show what he can do as a starting quarterback with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, he really went out there and made a show of the Titans. He basically, it was a statement game. This is what you get for trading me away. You have Will Levis doing it's basically been turned into a meme, generational turnovers. Each week there's a different one, there's a different pose, there's a different stupid mistake that you're like looking at it going, that's something a 4-year-old playing Madden does. Like, that's not what a professional quarterback is supposed to do. It's generating memes and everyone's laughing at them, and it's great. But if you're
they're still not going to beat what he did a couple of weeks ago, where as he was being sacked, he threw the ball, and it was like
when he was midair, and he just flung it up in the air.
Easiest interception, I think, was it the Broncos that picked it off? Alex Singleton picked it off, and it just kind of landed into his hands, and he couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's like
that's why you love the NFL, though, isn't it? It's just moments like that where you're watching and go, surely that's not real. Like, that's a Madden moment right there.
But people were wondering what's going to happen to the Packers without Jordan Love. Willis has taken the reins in Love's absence, and he's steering the ship in the right direction. And like I said, I still believe when Love comes back that the Packers have a Super Bowl run in them with this team. And it may be a case that if Willis goes on such a heater of a run, that Jordan Love might be sent out when he comes back fully healed, stinks the place up because he's rusty, and Willis replaces him.
Yeah, I can see Kev making a face there, and Kev, go on.
No, I'm just I'm wondering what you do then in this situation. You're going into week 4 now. You're playing the Vikings at home. The Vikings are looking real hot by all accounts.
Yep.
Who do you say, all right, we're going to give it back to Jordan Love now, even if he's going to be a little rusty? Do we just go straight back into that, especially playing a defense that's going to really, really pressure you? Is that what you want, or do you want to keep Will Levis in there, who's
Malik Willis,
even, who's doing a fantastic job in the system currently? Like, do you break that chain, or do you just go back to the old ways?
I personally think that. No, go ahead to us.
I was going to say, if I'm the Packers, I'd keep Love out this week because it's a divisional game. He's still not going to be 100%. Like, his knee, you were saying 4 to 6 weeks.
Next week will be 4 weeks exactly.
Yeah, so Brazil. It's at the early end of the recovery time. You don't want to send him out to the danger of being mauled by Flores' defense, which the Texans got mauled by his defense on Sunday just gone. So I think you give Willis the shot against the Vikings, and then after that you start cycling Love back into first team reps and practice at least to see how he's going. But I mean, I will say the Packers are in for a challenge after the absolute destruction of the Texans by the Vikings defense on Sunday.
I think that when Love is back and he's fully healthy, I do think he goes back in because he is their guy overall, and I think he's going to be their guy long term. Malik Willis, obviously, look, fair play to him. He has stepped up into a tough situation, but he's doing his job as a backup quarterback. I'm not sure what his contract situation is, but I think it could be a situation where he plays well enough here and he could end up like Baker Mayfield and getting a proper shot at a starting gig somewhere else. The Dolphins, who knows? That would be wild, wouldn't it? If Jordan Love comes back and then Malik Willis gets shipped down to the Dolphins? I think that would be cool. An interesting situation.
Anything happens in the NFL.
Yeah,
but I will say,
I'm not sure if the script writers might have gotten that far.
Sunday, as they say, any given Sunday. But I mean, we kind of have to do it. We've kept Kev on edge long enough now. The Vikings, Kev, Texans.
You can see him chomping at the bit there, waiting for if we started talking about the Vikings and his eyes lit up. Go on, Kev, give us your thoughts about the Vikings last night. Absolutely destroying the Texans.
Fair, everyone was at the start of the season. Nobody gave us a chance. Everyone was saying last team in the NFC North won't even be above 500. Like all this shit. Like everyone was talking their shit. Now you have to listen. Sam Darnold is playing some of the best football of anyone in the league. Of anyone in the league right now. He has a fantastic team around him. Like everyone talks about the noise, the energy in US Bank Stadium again. Like they went through 3 phases where they pushed the Texans back 3 penalties in a row because it was so loud. They just could not hear the snap counts. They couldn't hear anything. So listen, being a Vikings fan right now is fun. It's really fun because the social media do a great job of like hyping the whole team up and like making fans feel engaged. It's great. So like it's happening on the field. It's happening off the field. The sky's the limit right now. It really is.
And you got some good news that Darnold only has a knee bruise, no damage or structural issues to his knee.
I just seen Kevin O'Connell's press conference before he came on, actually. Yeah, so, as far as injuries go, Addison could be coming back. They're keeping him day to day. Same with Ivan Pace. Like, there's 2 players who we've missed out. We are still missing out on, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but I don't know if you've seen Justin Jefferson's 2 drops. There was 2 like very obvious drops where you're like, that's not a Justin Jefferson drop. And it just kind of was like, because he kind of twinged his wrists during the game, and they were kind of like eyeing him up the whole game, and they're like, oh, I wonder if his wrist is bothering him. Because these 2 drops, like, you'd never see him drop them. Like, it was just crazy. But outside of that, I think, there's nothing but good things to look forward to for Vikings fans.
What's the secret to the success that Darnold and the Vikings are having, Kev, do you reckon, right now? Is it just a combination of factors coming together? Is it the coach? Is it Darnold playing free and having fun? I mean, you have some good weapons there. Obviously, you mentioned Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. The running back, whose name eludes me right now, he's having a bit of a resurgence there as well. So, and
even like we're missing TJ Hawkinson, who is to come back in 2-3 more weeks, I think. But I think honestly, it comes down to just that attitude and atmosphere that Kevin O'Connell has brought in. You see it day in and day out in his conferences, in his interviews, like his interactions with the Minnesota like media people. He sets this tone, and it's just so consistent. It's so clear. And just from the outside, you can see how transparent it is in that locker room and how close they all are. And I just think that he's building a team of really, really good people who are like coming together and are just listening to the instructions and doing it, because he's obviously a really good coach, but he's building such a great atmosphere and team like culture. And I think that that's really standing to the Vikings right now. Because I do think that with Kirk, there was always this like monkey on our back about Kirk, where we're like, oh yeah, but it's Kirk Cousins. It was I always felt that way about him. Like I liked him, but everyone was just like, but it's Kirk Cousins. He's never going to win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
especially one of the things that like the Vikings definitely have going for them is Flores' defense. Like when you've got a defense that good, Sam Darnold knows it's not that he doesn't have to do too much, but he knows that his defense is going to keep him close in games. So he doesn't have to worry about getting into shootouts. He doesn't have to worry about having to go up there and do, and gymnastics or like astrophysics, like the like Josh Dobbs, stuff like that to win the game when you've got a defense that good. I'm still annoyed the Steelers let Flores go. Still not happy about that. But that's one thing that the Steelers have in common with the Vikings is our defense is keeping the games close, so Fields doesn't have to do anything.
Say you could say the same thing about the Steelers. I mean, that defense is running riot right now.
We're on pace to match the 1973 Steelers defense, the Steel Curtain, in points allowed right now.
Which is not very little.
Yeah, which is 8.6 points per game average.
And the Steelers defense definitely have given Justin Fields that little bit of wiggle room that he knows he has to be better, but he knows that he doesn't have to absolutely ball out. And hopefully he will start to absolutely ball out. And I think we saw glimpses of it last night. I mean, that pass to Calvin Austin down the middle was just sublime, absolutely perfect.
Finally down the middle. Finally.
Yes, well, he did target the middle of the field a lot more last night. I mean, we saw some
that
big targets.
55-yard TD to Austin down the middle. And Austin emerged as the number one receiver last night. Won 4 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely emerging as a nice compliment to George Pickens. Pickens still waiting for his touchdown, but you saw him getting open last night. And there was one particular play I watched where you could see that Fields was itching to get out of the pocket and run, but he hung in there and he delivered a nice pass to Pickens on the sideline. So I think that shows a lot of maturity twist on Fields' behalf, and that he's finally kind of stepping into that role we want him to be as our starting quarterback.
Yep, we do see that. He had a beautiful fake for that Russian touchdown that Fields scored himself. Like the entire left side of the Chargers field bit on Warren. And they thought Warren had the ball, and Fields just literally skipped into the end zone.
Yeah, literally skipped into the end
zone. But there is obviously concern that our, Troy Fatanu is on IR. Now, with a knee injury, the one thing that slightly irks me with that as a Steelers fan is one of the majority of the draft notes about him before the Steelers drafted him was he was phenomenal at the position, but he would have serious knee concerns that could prevent him having a long professional career, but it shouldn't, impact his early days. That's one of the write-ups by Albert Beer. And now he's on IR for minimum 4 games. God knows how long after that. So slightly irked that there was other tackles that they could have went for, other guards they could have went for, anyone else. But they went for him regardless in the knee situation, and I really hope it's just a 4-weeker, or if needs to be a season to get it repaired, and then that's it. Like he has a great career in Pittsburgh, but that's always going to be looming. But it is what it is.
I think the important thing for the Steelers is to get through this kind of easy stretch, with as many wins as possible, and get Justin Fields up to speed before the back half of the season starts, and we begin our AFC North gauntlet. So look, I think as Steelers fans we can be happy for now.
But so you got a watch party on Sunday.
Absolutely,
Colts,
yeah.
With
can't wait for that.
And Willie Parker coming over.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah,
gonna be serious crack. Lads, there's 2 games I want to get your thoughts on before we kind of finish up. And the first of those is the Niners and the Chargers. Kevin, I mean, 2 teams absolutely. Sorry, did I said the Chargers? Niners. They both play in the same stadium. That's where I got confused. And their uniforms look exactly the same, blue and white and yellow. The 49ers and the Rams, 2 teams who are definitely plagued by injuries, with some of their top players out this week. The 49ers obviously missing a couple of key pieces, as were the Chargers. I keep saying it, as were the Rams. But we saw players stepping up in their stead, Kev. I mean, look at Juwan Jennings. He came from a 3rd-string wide receiver, really, to being the star of the show with 3 touchdowns yesterday, including that absolute poster where he mossed that poor defender. So it's interesting to see how teams are able to adapt with these, I suppose, not lower-ranked players, but not necessarily stars when they need to.
The unknowns.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to now start to see how good Brock Purdy really is. I think we're going to start to see how good San Francisco actually is. Like, look, the Rams are a really good team. Like, Matt Stafford is so good. I think that a lot of people don't rate him as highly as they should. He continues to ball out, even though he lost some of his best talent. He's lost Puka Nacua. I think he lost Cooper Kupp as well. So
and but even he was able to step up with some of the lesser known players, the unknown players. I mean, Tutu Atwell had a good game as well. Kyron Williams had 3 touchdowns for the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, same on both sides of the ball, and we'll start to see now, because, obviously we're going to see a kind of bare bones 49ers team for the next couple of weeks, by the sounds of it. So we'll really see how Brock Purdy ends out in this next stretch with kind of an underpowered team.
Twist, I don't know if you got to watch it, what were your thoughts on seeing both quarterbacks adapt to challenging situations? I was surprised by how underutilized Brandon Ayuk was. I mean, your natural presumption would be, given the fact that Debo is out, George Kittle is out, CMC is out, you go to one of the highest paid receivers in the league who basically forced their hand to pay them, and he was non-existent. It was Jawan Jennings, who, by the way, had a great Super Bowl. He had to step up instead.
Yeah, I mean, Ayuk only was 5 catches, less than 50 yards. He was not used at all. Now, I don't know whether that's pure coverage, and give the credit to the Rams secondary. But it was good to see. Obviously, I just seen the highlights of the game. But it was good to see that both teams had the depth there. That's one concern you always have. You have depth if someone goes down, and that next man up mentality. Both teams brought that to the table. 49ers will obviously have big expectations on them. They have that offense is built around Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, and CMC. When the majority of them are missing due to injury, only Ayuk's the other one left. There's a lot of pressure on second and third string guys to step up and fill that role. And they tried. They stepped up. They showed out, but they couldn't close it out and win the game. And even, I will say, it was more of a 49ers home game. The stadium was full of red, and even then the crowd couldn't will Brock Purdy along. I think Kev's point is accurate. We will see who Purdy really is now down the stretch, with the majority of his offensive weapons on the bench. As they face tougher teams, teams that are going to push for, the wild card, push for the division, push for the conference. If those guys are still out, can Purdy manage, just not be a game manager, but manage the game enough to keep them close, and then step up and do that 2-minute drill, do that game-winning drive, get that win. Whether it's a 1 touchdown win or a double-digit touchdown win, he has to show that he can still do it, and he is actually not really Mr. Irrelevant in disguise.
It's going to be interesting to see how those two teams continue to fare out. Jordan Mason, I think, finally on this game has been a nice revelation for San Francisco in the absence of CMC. Looks like a good pickup, a good running back. I haven't seen much of him play, but it definitely seems like it's the time now for those unknowns to kind of emerge and make a name for themselves, Kev, while they have the opportunity.
Yeah, look, I think we talked about it last week as well. I think just how prevalent injuries are happening across the league. It's like, how many injuries are we going to have by week 6, week 7? Like, where are we going to be at with like big names? Are we just going to see a big plethora of guys going down, guys getting injured, guys not really in the season? Because nobody wants to see that. So hopefully that starts to decline. It's awesome that younger guys and maybe lesser named guys are going to get an opportunity to show their skin a little bit. But I think that this rate of injury needs to slow down. It really does. It's not good for the sport, I don't think.
No, especially, and we touch on it again, like you say, it's not good this early in the season anyway to have all these big names. It's disappointing, especially when there's such a long season ahead.
As I said last week, if anyone's going to be injured, a star player, I'd rather to be injured at the start of the season and be back when it counts, when you're going hot into the playoffs. But obviously, I don't want anyone to be injured. But if I had to choose one or the other, I'd choose early season injury over late season injury.
Speaking of teams, finally, before we finish up, that are almost certainly going to be in the playoffs, at least from an AFC perspective, the Chiefs. Absolute shootout in Atlanta last night against the Falcons. I watched it back there earlier. I mean, Kirk Cousins had 2 opportunities to convert in 4 down to put the game away and didn't. And then, of course, if you let Patrick Mahomes hang around, he's going to make you pay. And I have to say, Mahomes, watching Mahomes and Rashee Rice, I mean, just like what a fantastic connection. It has to be one of the best connections in the league right now, I think, between quarterback and wide receiver, Kev.
Yeah, it's definitely up to. I think just the way Mahomes plays, it's hard to deny his talent and how good he is. Like, even if you're a Mahomes hater, fair enough. You don't like the Chiefs, fair enough. But like, as somebody who enjoys watching like fun, enjoyable, like entertaining football, Mahomes is what you're looking for. Like, he manages to get the game, like he manages to stay in the game, like you said, from any situation. There's never a situation where he's out of it, and if he ever has a sniff, he's gonna make you pay for it. So, you know, his connection with even when it was Kelsey last year and the year before, he just needs somebody. He just needs somebody he can trust and he can throw the ball to all the time. And right now, that's Rice. It could be somebody else in 3 weeks, and as long as he trusts them and as long as he's throwing them in their direction, they're catching it, he's going to continue to do it. So if anything, they're more limited. The Chiefs are a little more limited. What if Rice goes down? You know, who does he go to?
Then you have Xavier Worthy, who's emerging as a good target as well out of Texas. And I think now that we've seen the kind of the connection between Kelsey and Mahomes slow down a little bit, Mahomes has been forced to find other targets. So he's kind of like, he's kind of discovering I have different weapons here who I can rely on. And he got a couple of other tight ends involved in the game and other key players. So that's the danger with the Chiefs, I think, is even if you take away 1 or 2 key pieces, Mahomes is going to find a way to score, and his players are going to get open, and he's going to score points. I mean, that was an absolute shootout last night. I mean, I kind of wish that I watched that game.
But he's building that chemistry with Smith-Schuster again.
Even had a touchdown last night.
Yeah, but here's the question: was it pass interference?
It looked like it.
Was there a rub? Was there?
Yeah.
Was there a rub? The defender didn't turn his head. He just jumped, body slammed forward into the Falcons receiver, and the refs didn't even react. I'm like, that was blatant pass interference, and they didn't call it in the end zone.
Yeah, it's always it's tough when it comes down to that kind of close finish in these games, especially I think it was 3 points in the end. Was it that the game ended?
Yeah, especially when it's the Chiefs again. Like, if it was any other team, you'd be like, fair enough. But it's just like, these things are happening too often. They're getting the rub of the green way too often. Like,
it's a bit like the Patriots used to get all the calls back in the day when Tom Brady was there. Now it's Mahomes is the new Brady, the new golden boy of the league.
Yeah, I mean, Brady did get, the tuck rule and, everything else under the sun, Deflategate, Spygate. He got slaps on the wrist and, he got away with some blatant stuff. But that was blatant pass interference. He literally body slammed. I can't remember what Falcons receiver it was, but he just threw his body, didn't turn to look for the ball. And it was just like, there should be 10 flags on the field and a couple of hats as well. It was just like nothing, no reaction. And as Kev said, it's only because it's the Chiefs is why we're talking about it. If it happened in the Steelers game, I'd be talking about it, but I'd be talking about it on Twitter, with other Steelers fans. But everyone, every meme page, every NFL fan page, everything is all, that was pass interference.
And what did it happen against the Falcons? Were on offense? I didn't see it in the highlights.
Yeah. But I'm not going to show it because...
Look, I didn't have time to watch Sunday in 60 before we came on, all right? It's been a very, very busy day.
Yeah.
Just about got to watch the highlights. This is the joys of having a full-time job and doing several podcasts.
Before we wrap this up, we need to talk about Caleb Williams and this. Again,
he got his first touchdown yesterday.
Okay, and how terrible did they look outside of that? he looks so average, and everyone again at the start of the year.
I could have told you that coming out of college. If he has a bad game, he has a bad game.
Can we rewind the tape to when we were talking about what people were expecting certain players to do this year, and everyone was hot on Caleb Williams, and I wasn't buying it, and it's all coming out in the wash now.
And you're not just saying that because he's in the NFC North and the
It's
Vikings.
actually not though. It's because of the Bears, and to be honest with you, it's not even that. Like Eberflus isn't a good coach. I don't think he's a good coach.
Well, the starting right tackle.
The Bears are gonna screw up Caleb Williams just like they screwed up Justin Fields. Wait
Well,
and see.
the Bears starting right tackle. He doesn't practice. He refuses to practice. And he would have lost his job to the backup, but the backup got his out in season-ending injury. Like that was the plan, was to replace him with the backup.
What a disaster.
Because he refuses to practice. I'm like, you kind of need to practice. That's why Caleb is getting absolutely hammered in the backfield. You've got no cohesion with the rest of the line.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying though. Is like I'm not to kind of downplay Caleb Williams. I think either way he's a generational talent, but like that twist, he's gonna get ruined by. Yeah.
Bears are mismanaging him.
By the Bears.
It's like what's that about? Like how did their organization continue to let it happen?
Are we calling Caleb Williams Bryce Young 2.0?
It's definitely
I think he's a much more talented player. I think he actually has the measurables of a starting NFL quarterback. I mean, he has the height, he has the arm, he has the evasiveness. But I think it's going to be Justin Fields 2.0 where.
But if you stick around in the wrong place for too long, you see what happens. That's exactly what happened with the Panthers. Like Justin Fields, I think, was like, all right, I got to get the heck out of here.
Yeah.
You know, the Bears don't break 500 by the end of the year. Like the city itself is going to turn on Williams, you know, and then that's going to get to him mentally, and then the Bears are going to have even loftier expectations going into his sophomore year.
Yeah.
And unless they replace that right tackle, I think it's the right tackle. I'm pretty sure it's right tackle. Unless they replace him completely and get a unit that, I mean, somebody put up a photo of like the Colts. The entire Colts defensive line was through, and all the Bears offensive line were on their asses, like at the red zone. The one place you want your offensive line to hold up the defense, they were all on their ass. They all got knocked down like they were like high school football players.
Yeah, not great for a development of a young quarterback, as you say. I think it'll be interesting as well to see how the Steelers defense finally fares against Anthony Richardson next week. No problem at all. I think there'll be picks all day. I think next week. I think our defensive backfield is going to have a field day against Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah. Steelers Vikings Superbowl. Call it. Let's go.
Oh,
we called it last week. We called it last week. Every week that goes by, I'm getting more and more convinced it could be the truth.
I honestly if Justin Fields can actually keep playing the way he's playing and find ways to get into the end zone, George Pickens needs a fucking touchdown. If he doesn't get one next week, the running backs need a touchdown. I'm actually raging a little bit at Najee for. I know it was the smart move at the end of the game to go down and to not get the ball back, but if you had scored there, we were up 20-13 already. The Chargers would have had like a minute left to try and. Anyway, I won't go off on a tangent, but Najee deliberately slowed down there. He could have gone into the end zone and scored.
Didn't the Chargers in the whole second half only have like minus
5 yards?
Minus 5 yards. You know,
yeah.
Like that's got to say something for where you Steelers are at. Like, you know, I know at the start of the year you guys were definitely a little more skeptical than you seem right now. You definitely seem like giddy school lads.
I'm not getting that excited. I won't get it.
The smiles on the Dewey's.
I'm not getting my hopes up until we start playing AFC North teams, and then we'll see.
What I'm just going to say is I really hope Pickens, as you say, gets his touchdown soon, because if he doesn't, by the AFC North run, we might see Antonio Brown 2.0. Because he has a temper.
Christmas Day is going to be my litmus test for Justin Fields. If we can get there in relatively good shape, the Chiefs are the only team that are going to give us any trouble looking at that schedule, I think. I mean, I have it here.
That's a lot. There's a lot of football between now and Christmas Day. Yeah, lots of football.
So we're officially 3 months out from Christmas Day, thereabouts. Anyway, we won't get into Christmas talk. I'm going to stop recording now before we start talking about Christmas.
Yeah.
Monday Night Football tonight. This will be going out tomorrow morning. After that, Bengals and the Commanders. That's going to be interesting. Jaden Daniels versus Joe Burrow. Jaden Daniels, one of those other quarterbacks who still hasn't thrown for a touchdown pass yet. Similar to Bo Nix, he has indeed rushed for several. And it'll be interesting as well to see, watching back, how how Joe Burrow continues to climb back from that wrist injury. Lads, we are at 45 minutes. That was fun, as always. We'll talk soon. In the meantime, have fun. See you later.
There we go.
Peace out.